Hey, this is Giang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Immi-Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. Today, we have an amazing guest for you. We have Dr. Latifat Akintade, and she went from a busy physician drowning in financial overwhelm to an amazing money coach, author of the book Done with Broke, and founder of MoneyFitMD, where she helps other women doctors take control of their finances without the burnout. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Latifa. Please feel free to introduce yourself. How did you get here? How did you start this amazing journey?
Thank you so much for having me here. And thank you for launching a podcast that is specifically to help immigrants from all across the world just create the wealth that they want to create. So thank you very much for doing that. I love the name of your podcast because it really is my journey. And, it's my journey to here and the journey to where I'm going to be going that I don't even know. So, for those that may not know me, which I'm assuming is everyone in your audience, I'm a physician. I'm a mama of three little ladies, and I'm also the founder of MoneyFitMD. I grew up in Nigeria, moved to the US when I was 18. That was over 20 something years ago. I went to college in LA. I did 2 years of community college, graduated from UCLA, and then eventually went to UCSF in San Francisco for medical school for 4 years, and then moved to New York for 3 years for my internal medicine residency training, and then back to California for another 3 years of training, which is what it takes to be a gastroenterologist. Throughout that journey, I didn't know where I was going to settle eventually, but I was just moving to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing towards this journey of becoming a physician. But what that also meant was I was dragging my debt throughout the country. My parents were primarily in Nigeria. They lived in the US and in Nigeria, but primarily in Nigeria. And the reason why we came to the US was to have a better future, whatever that was. That was just like a blanket statement.
Mhm.
And I knew nothing about money. I knew nothing about the financial system. I didn't even know how to become a physician. So talk less of like money. There's this thing called a credit card. It's amazing. And you can buy whatever you want and just pay back like just the minimum payment. And I was like, oh my goodness, that sounds amazing. But like literally that was all my financial education. It's like you earn money, you have a credit card, you buy, you swipe, you pay it off, you just make it easy on yourself. But as some of your audience probably knows, what that means is you're literally maybe dragging out like hundreds of interest every month. That's not even changing the bottom line or decreasing the principal that you actually are owing on it. For some reason, I was just prudent when it came to my finances. I had a credit card, but I used it for important things. Like if I wanted to take an exam and I did not have money, I would pay for registration of the examination. If I needed books to prepare, like I would use it for things like that. But at the same time, no one talked to me about what interests were. No one talked to me about like the student loans that I was going to have. But by the time I woke up, literally, when it comes to like my finances, I was already pretty much done with my long training as a physician. There is someone that keeps sending me letters called Auntie Sally. I don't know who she is, but she keeps sending me letters. And that's like my student loan person. She's like, woman, you got to pay up. And I'm like, who you? Because throughout my training, all I'd been doing was like defer, forbear, whatever I needed to do to get it out of my face. But then 8 years ago, I just had this moment where I'm so grateful for, where I almost saw my future. And I realized that my only goal was to be a great physician. That was all I wanted to be. But I had this visual into my future where if I did not start focusing on my finances, if I did not start learning how to be equipped so that I would always have the freedom to walk, I was going to be a physician who was burnt out, who had no choice in how she practiced medicine, who may have been living paycheck to paycheck, but at least she would be worrying about her finances like month to month. And I did not want that to happen. So that was what forced me to start looking at my own finances to like, okay, how can I do money? How can I go from being ashamed and afraid of looking at my finances? How can I go from being intimidated about what I did not know about the stock market and look at how I can make my finances help me protect myself in future so that I could be the kind of physician that I wanted to be, the kind of mom that I want to be. And honestly, that was where my own personal journey through money started. And once I started helping myself, I started seeing improvements. I owed like about 200,000 in debt, like credit card and student loans. My goal was to pay it off in 5 years. We did it in 2.5 years. And this
Amazing.
is with me hating budgeting, me hating spreadsheets, me not fitting into the financial mode that was never made with me in mind. And I'm like, wow, this stuff actually is not even hard. It is not as hard as everything that I do as a physician.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started teaching my friends. And my friends started making differences. Like their money started changing. They started growing their net worth. I had people like eating their first 7 figure before age 40. And I was like, okay, I was onto something that no one really was teaching us. But at that point, my goal was not to own a business. My goal was not to start a podcast. I did not want any of that. I just wanted to be a good physician. So I was helping people. People were coming to me for help, but I did not want a business because I had an identity about
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
And my identity is I'm a physician, not a business owner. I'm a physician, not a marketer. I'm a physician, not a speaker. I don't do podcasts. I don't do videos. I barely do money. I had beliefs, and I'm sharing this because there are going to be people in your audience that
Mm-hmm.
have beliefs about themselves. They are looking at their past and thinking that their future can only grow as much as their past. They're looking for what they have done
Mm-hmm.
or not done in the past and projecting that towards their future. I will tell you that your past is just that, your past.
Mm-hmm.
Your future is not defined yet, and you can create something new from that. And I did not know that. So for a long time, I was resistant.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic happened. Physicians were worried about their income. Physicians were being fired because hospitals were literally acting like sinking Titanic and throwing people off board, like nurses and
Wow.
doctors were being thrown off board because they're like, we don't know what's going to happen to our
Mm-hmm.
overhead. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I was not worried about my finances, which meant that I had the mental space to take care of my kids, to take care of my patients, to take care of our community. And at that point, I literally rolled my eyes and I was like, I guess I have no choice. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how MoneyFitMD started, with the podcast, with the book, with the money school for women physicians, with the speaking and all the other things that we not get to do. And we're not done yet. We're not
Mm-hmm.
even close to being done yet. And I'm looking forward to serving your audience today, share whatever I can share with them, but hopefully just letting them know that the fact that you may have come here with nothing or something does not matter. You can create the future. And it really just starts with what you're willing to let yourself learn and experience.
Wow. I love just what you shared. There's so much you unpacked. Just what you shared that really probably resonate with our audience and also me was just that not understanding how the money system works here. I remember I just purchased something at Macy and the store clerk were asking me, oh, do you want to apply for a Macy credit card? And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but sure, why not? And I remember specifically, I was walking around with my social security number, like card. And I remember sliding it over, and the lady on the counter was like, no, like you can't just show everyone your social security number. And I got denied for that store card because I didn't have the credit history. I was in
Mm-hmm.
college, I didn't have any of that credit history. And we don't have that luxury of maybe potentially have someone here for a long time who already built a credit history and just willing to put us under that card, right? So what you share is so relatable. Just really understand how the system works. And then there is always this piece. You cannot not worry about the finance because whether you choose to or not, it is a part of it, right? So it always makes sense to actually learn about it, stay on top of it, and make it become something that serves your life. I also love what you share about being able to build a life that is free, that you don't have this constant worry in the back of your head about like, am I gonna be able to survive through the next paycheck? I think there's a limiting belief, or I guess a myth that people always think like, hey, I'm gonna have a high salary and then that's it, I'm set for life. And that's further away from the truth. As you work with a lot of high income earners, what are some of the biggest financial challenges that you have often see?
You pointed out correctly that many times we assume that the present is going to be indicative of the future, and that is not always true. The fact that your income is high right now does not mean that it's going to high 2 years from now. I have a story of a physician who thought she was like, you know what? I'm a physician. I love what I do. It's exciting to help patients. I'm living my purpose. I do clinic, I do procedures. All I need is like retirement. And she got injured. And for some people, as like a physician that does procedure, it doesn't require a lot to actually injure you. All you need is a little carpal tunnel, a little discomfort in your wrist. And now that every time you like move even a finger, your hands start to hurt,
Mhm.
right? And so many times we assume that we were not going to get knocked down. We hear stories about other people and we somehow assume that we're going to be immune to it. I'm in California. We heard about the fire that happened recently. At no point did some other
Yeah.
people think it was ever going to happen to them,
Mm-hmm.
right? My
Yeah.
husband lost his dad when he was 12 years old. Like things happen that you don't necessarily prepare for or think could happen to you. So the fact that you're high earner right now just means that you've been blessed with the seeds to be able to plant. And a wise farmer will do that. So one of the mistakes that people make is they assume that their current marketability is going to be exactly the same in the future. And that's not always the case. So that's number one, assuming that their current income is going to be exactly what it's going to be in future. That doesn't happen. Number two is like, especially when you're busy doing good things. We are busy with good things. And for some reason, we think that our finances is not qualifying as one of the good things we should be doing. We're minding, quote unquote, our own business when our finances is actually a huge part of our business, but we don't mind that. So the number two mistake we make is we don't actually create time in our lives to do our finances. And the way that you would know is if I asked you right now, what is your calendar? If I asked to look at your calendar and your personal finance is nowhere on your calendar, then you're not ready for the future yet because your calendar tells me what you value. You know, many people, especially moms, you may have like your kids' doctor's appointment, you may have your patient schedule, you may have your work schedule, but nowhere in there is your money CEO hour. Especially even if you're not a physician, if you're a business owner, your business is always going to be like a construction zone. There's never a time when there's going to be nothing to do in your business. And the temptation is going to be like, oh, I'll just focus on the business. And then at some point, when I have more money, more time, then I'll do the personal finance. I cannot tell you how many physicians who are amazing people making impact in their community have their own practice. And now 10 years from when they would like to retire, and they have no nest egg waiting for them because they were thinking there's a time in future where I'll be able to do my finances. So the number two mistake people make is they don't have their own personal finance on their schedule. The minimum you can do is have an hour a week, an hour every other week. That is your own money CEO time. That is the time you look at your personal finance. Where am I investing? Where do I want to change things? Right? That is number two. Number three thing that I find is that we're delegating the wrong things. So when I started my personal finance, you know, a lot of times we take advice from the people we respect around us, even if we're not asking ourselves if they're the right people to advise us in this specific scenario. So for example, when I finished my training, I was like, okay, I'm ready to be an adult now when it comes to my finances. I've been in training for over like 10, 12 years or forever. Now it's time to the big bucks start running in relatively to what I was earning before, which if I was working for McDonald's, I would have earned more than I was earning even as a physician in residency and in fellowship. And so I was like, okay, what are my attendants doing? And all of them are like, oh yeah, just get an advisor, just get an advisor. So I did that. I was like, okay, financial adulting is you get an advisor. So I did that. And there's nothing wrong with having an advisor, but I delegated my finances to the advisor. And I will just meet with them like once a quarter, like whatever they're saying, going in through one ear, going out through the other, because I thought to myself, it is delegated. That's what you do. Except a year or so later, I started learning about personal finance for myself. I want to make sure I'm not wasting money on like credit card debt. Like I just needed strategies to actually help my personal finances, the habits and things like that, that was going to lead to a good financial future. What I found out during that time was the money that I had that we were in charge of, quote unquote, by ourselves versus the money that was in charge, like with the advisor being invested. Our money after a year was actually doing better. Was doing better than what the advisor did. And the reason why was sometimes your advisor may be investing in things where they're getting paid a commission. So if someone was charging you 1% of the net worth that you have with them, it means that regardless of what the economy is doing, if the stock market crashes, you're still paying 1%. So you're like drop down low, and now another 1% is going to drop down low. So imagine you have like $200,000, and now every year $20,000 is being taken out of your investment. It may not sound like a crazy amount per year, but then if you look at it every single year that is being taken from your account, you literally are paying multiple seven figures potentially over the course of your career. So what I found is that we have to make sure we're delegating the right thing. The thing is about immigrants, sometimes, not to generalize, is we've seen our parents do every single thing they can to keep food on the table and work hard and all of that. And so sometimes we're resisting delegating things like cleaning your house, but we're delegating the finances of the house. So literally, you don't want to pay someone $200 a month, but you're paying someone $20,000 a year. When maybe if you actually knew about it, you could earn more. You could use your brain more for that. You could make more money by using your brain, because now you've leveraged your time by delegating the lower level things that someone else would be happy to. Like, if I hired my housekeeper, they're like, thank God for provision. So I get to provide for their family, free up my time, and now use that time to learn finances, learn how to invest, and be able to leverage and make more money for my family. Those are some of the mistakes that I find. And, many times it's based on the assumption that it is hard. I don't know how to. No one can tell me how to. I failed in the past. And in 2025 and beyond, this is like the time where knowledge is like so easily available. So it's not that the knowledge is not out there. It's that you're afraid to make mistakes. And sometimes what you want to do is put yourself in the right environment, put yourself in the right community, get a mentor, get a coach that has done what you want to do, that can guide you along the path, so that what could take you 20 years and frustration and wasting money can maybe take you 1 year. I literally had people that work with me inside of the money school that have gone 15 years without maxing out their retirement. And within like 12 months, they're maxing out their retirement. They're buying their dream home. They're investing outside of the stock market. The wisdom that I wish more people were taught, which is delegate the right things, pay for the right resources, which is community, mentorship, coaching. Like, pay for your team to help you leverage their time to help you grow. Who do you need to delegate to? Is it a housekeeper? Is it additional babysitting or childcare beyond the bare minimum that you think is highly adequate? We need to learn how to let go of some of the beliefs that's holding us back, the beliefs that our parents had that helped them put money on the table. But now maybe it's your turn to go beyond putting money on the table to actually now creating wealth for the next generation. Because it's not about doing exactly what your parents did. It's about taking the baton and growing it to where they could never take it to, because that is your job. That is your responsibility.
I totally can relate with the immigrant story of, we tend to be DIY people. We tend to rely on ourselves a lot. And sometimes you have to realize that your time is limited, right? So to Dr. Latifat's point, you have to figure out what is the right thing to delegate. You also have to have an alignment of interest with who do you delegate it to. Because there's definitely people who then rely on financial advisor who don't have that alignment of interest, right? Because Dr. Latifat, you can't imagine you are trying to DIY learning how to become a physician. You went to school for that, you get coached, you get mentored, you get all of that to become a doctor. So whatever that now you need to pay a mentor, pay for a community to learn about the financial piece, that can be a fraction of your tuition to becoming that higher income earner. And is really going to save you so much time, so much money. And I just love that you share the success stories that people could reach, being a part of your community, actually getting the right mentors who's been where they want to go. I want to dig a little bit deeper into that limiting beliefs around money. It's always start with mindset. You cannot continue to build wealth if your mindset is not in the right place. Share with us a little bit about what are some of those money or wealth beliefs that you treasure, that you want to take on and keep with you. And what are some of those beliefs that you found hey, this is not working for me and this is what I need to work on to change it in order to get to the next level?
Absolutely. I think one of the things is redefining what wasting money means. Maybe for me, my family may have thought wasting money is like working with a coach. But buying a huge house is not wasting money, right? Buying a huge primary home may be defined as a good thing, but why would you want to pay someone to teach you something is a waste of money. Why would you want to waste money paying someone to clean your house when you can do it in just 3 hours, or you can do it in just 2 hours every week? You can do that. Why would you want to pay someone? So number one is redefining what wasting money actually means for you, not based on how your culture is defined it, but based on where you're trying to go. Because part of it is, if you think about one of the most important assets we have, it's actually our time, our energy. And the goal of money is to help you have more time so that you can do the things that are actually of value to you, but also you can have energy to do the things that you're meant to do in this world. If you ask yourself that question, you can write down like 5 things that maybe you have been taught. And what those things are what you would define as your money story. There's a time and season for everything under the sun. And part of it is, yes, there's a time when maybe cleaning your house is a smart thing to do, but you have to be honest with yourself in the season you're in the season you're trying to go. And I'll share a story with you guys. There was something that I was supposed to do. I think I was supposed to like be investigating, like buying more properties or something. And I was like, I didn't have time to do it. Or maybe I was supposed to launch a podcast. And I was like, I didn't have time to do it. And the moment that I was thinking about I didn't have time, I actually had my vacuum in my hands and I was vacuuming. And I just paused at a moment where I was like, you don't have time to do this thing that could help you do more of what you want to do, but you have time to vacuum. Our cleaner used to come like once a month. I just dropped the vacuum cleaner at that moment and called out, texted, I was like, hey, would you like to do more hours? So that is just asking yourself in this season with this vision, what am I defining as wasting money versus not? So that's number one mindset that I would definitely have on there. Number two mindset is not related to wasting money, but it's a definition of assets versus liabilities. That is a huge one. And I know that it's a word that is thrown around a lot. But when I was finishing training, at no point did anybody ask me things like, how are you going to pay off your student debt? Are you going to buy assets? Are you going to buy like investments? Are you going to max out your retirement? No one actually asked me that question. The question I got was, what purse are you going to buy? Are you going to buy a new home? Are you going to buy a new car? And there's nothing wrong with all of those things, but everything in its own season. What I had to understand was most people in our culture in general, in the American culture, are literally stuck to their sources of income. They're stuck to their jobs, right? Most people don't have time. An average family gets out of the house maybe by 7 o'clock, and then everybody convenes together by like 6 p.m., spend an hour together, and they do that again, go to bed, and do it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And so you have to be very careful from whose example you're trying to live by. So what I had to realize was most people actually spend on things that depreciate over time, things that decrease in value over time, right? And so I had to ask myself that question of like, am I spending primarily on things that increase in value, or am I spending first on things that decrease in value? And so what that meant was I had to like prioritize what culture had taught me. So the primary home buying, the quote unquote dream house, became low on my priority. I had a car that was working, that was functional. Buying a fancy car became low on my priority, right? And so I started to ask myself, okay, I want to buy stocks. I want to buy bonds. I want to buy houses that can put money in my pocket so that I can earn money when I sleep, because I don't want to limit my earnability based on how many hours I have in a day. If the things that I'm buying is not increasing in value over time, then that means I'm limiting how much I could potentially have and earn. I'm not saying liabilities are bad, and I'm not saying only assets are good, but it's making sure that you have the right things prioritized in the right season. Because the thing is this, if you're not willing to do things that most people are unwilling to do, you're not going to get what most people are unwilling to have. You know this, but it is rare for a physician to be able to quit their job and say they want to travel around the world. A couple of years ago, we were able to do that. We took our kids out of school. We traveled around the world. We did 20 countries in a year. We're out of the country for 10 months. I stopped practicing medicine clinically for a year, right? I'm not saying that to say everybody needs to do that. But when inspiration comes, you want, I cannot, to not be the reason why you don't. You can say, I choose not to. I don't feel like it. It doesn't seem like it's for me. But I cannot should not be the theme of your life going forward. The only I cannot should be based on the fact that I don't want it, not because I physically am limited to. And why that is important is the more you're like, I cannot, it's not possible for me, you start to create a narrative and you start to train your brain to believe that. And that is the limitation in which you're going to move forward. And let's not forget that many of us live in community. You may have kids, you may have nieces, you may have nephews, you may have siblings, and your own limiting mindset starts to become evidence for them. Right. And at the end of the day, you can preach all you want, you can say all you want, but most things are actually caught, not taught. So your life becomes an example that makes it easier or harder for people to live their impossible life. I cannot tell how many people that I've never talked to that are like, oh my goodness, I took a break for a month. And part of that was because I saw that you did too, and you could too. Imagine what life would look like in your community if more people are just living a life that is bold, a life that's courageous, a life that's not limited by fear, a life that's not just based on that's how we've been doing things, this is how it is, and all of that stuff. That is literally how we change our community and we do our part to move the needle forward.
Man, I love what you share. And I resonate with that so much. This was why I started the podcast in the first place. Sometimes we can get in this mode of what is it that we need to do in the next 24 hours? What is it that we need to do in the next hour? And sometimes we keep focusing on that instead of thinking what is possible. I love what you said about just having the choice. You can get the car, you can get the house, you can do all of that. Just make sure it is your choice. Make sure it's not something that society is expecting of what's considered successful at your stage. So I love that. With that, I just want to also close the question with what are one of the financial habits that you think have one of the biggest long-term impact that our audience can take away and start implementing?
Some of the long-term things, honestly, is just avoiding like shiny object syndrome.
Love it.
There's so much noise in the world that people think having money and all of that has to be like loud and shiny and FOMO based, but it's actually not. I will be honest with you, the only reason why I post anything at all is because I teach people. But like your finances doesn't have to be loud to be successful. It doesn't have to be flamboyant to be successful. It just has to be done your way. Avoid the noise. Learn, don't take rash decisions. Sit with it for a little bit, not too long, because some people like to procrastinate as well. And then just let that be the vehicle that actually helps you move forward and do the things that you want to do. Some of the things that I would definitely recommend to your audience is if you're someone that procrastinates, it is helpful for you to find a community of people that are taking actions. There's value in peer support because more people are doing things, the easier it is for you to do things as well, right? And so just keep those in mind. Like, it's not about bells and whistles, it's about learning. And I love wisdom. I love wisdom a lot. And most times, wisdom is not glitzy. Wisdom is actually grounding. So, what do you want to learn? Go learn it. Find a book, find a podcast, and just take actions. And this was part of the biggest challenge that I had with even starting MoneyFitMD. The reason why is because stealth wealth is what I like. The grounded wealth, it is like my freedom is wealth. My ability to use my voice is wealth. And so for me, the idea of like talking about money online was really hard, to be honest with you, to do. And I think that sometimes people can mistake the fact that people are saying that and doing that online to mean that you have to be that in order to be successful. No, you take the learning and you go do the work, right? It is actions that create results. So for some of your people that like hiding like me, that just want to like mind their own business, I hear you. Just learn the wisdom, go apply it. Don't overwhelm yourself, but also don't procrastinate. And the best way that I found to do that is to put myself in communities that are growth focused so that I can actually start to grow. Like literally, the most important thing about a plant is going to be like the community in which you place the plant.
Awesome. I fully agree that action brings clarity. I know a lot of us, me included, want to know the best things to do. And the problem with thinking about the best is that now you start kind of going down too many details that like, is this the best? Versus if you keep consistent actions, that's going to move to where you want to be. So with that, we're now getting to a part of the show where you get to answer a random question that our previous guest has left behind. And let me see, your question is, can you share a moment where you felt truly financially free for the first time?
For the first time. Wow. For the first time. So for me, I would say that a moment like that for me was where I didn't think about it as financially free, but it was just a moment where I could spend without thinking about the consequences, the long term consequences. And, I just shared about the travel that we did as a family, and that was nice and big. But the moment that I will remember actually had to do with my family. I lost my dad a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago. He died at the age of 68. So it was not old. It
Wow.
would have been just a couple of years older than traditional retirement age if he had taken the traditional path. But prior to that, I remember their anniversary a few years before that. Like, I think it was the year before the pandemic. We had our parents take a cruise together. And
Wow.
that was something that my dad had never done before, and something that my mom had never done before. And these are people that both grew up in families where they did not have a lot. They worked really
Mm-hmm.
hard. My dad always prioritized education. There are seven of us total, six girls and a boy. And he always said, what a man can do, a woman can do too, was something that he always preached to us. Even though he never went to college, my mom never went to college, but they both prioritized and really emphasized the
Mm-hmm.
importance of education. And so for them, they would say things like, no kid of ours should talk to us about marriage until they at least have their master's degree. And the reason why they said that was because they saw education as a ticket,
Mm-hmm.
almost like an insurance for the future, right?
Yep.
And I will never forget this picture of my dad where he was on the cruise and he just touched the ground. And it was one of the most enjoyable things ever was, and touching the ground is like I was here. And I will never forget that picture. So that was a moment of like using our money in a way that just gives me so much joy. Another example is when one of my youngest sisters got married. So we hosted the wedding, like not at our house, but like there was an event center. It was a really beautiful wedding, but like our home was like the base. So we had 20 something people from around the world, from Nigeria, from UK, different parts of the US
Wow.
staying with us. And it was chaotic and amazing at the same time. I
Mm-hmm.
love creating memories, but not memories when you're 80 only, but memories now so that you can enjoy for the long term. And one of the things that I definitely recollect was I was sitting down and thinking, okay, what can we do to let everyone have a great time during this time where
Mm-hmm.
we're coming from different parts of the world? That is such a rare experience for us. And I found out about Frontier Airline, which is like one of the most uncomfortable flights ever in this world. Like Frontier and Spirit, they be getting like bad rep, but they do some good work. And I remember finding tickets on Frontier from our local airport to Vegas for like inexpensive.
Love.
And I literally booked 20 something seats. Made the rules like, guys, this is a budget airline. This is how you pack, backpack only. Or like, we were like, this is how many boxes we're checking in. Just keep it all like that. We rented a huge mansion in Vegas, and all
Wow.
of us went to Vegas and had the most amazing time ever.
Oh,
Had the most amazing time ever. And that was literally the only vacation that all of my siblings and our parents were actually able to go together with all of our kids before the pandemic when my dad died during the pandemic. So
oh my gosh.
I'm so grateful for that moment
Mm-hmm.
because the work that I've done, getting the finances in order and organizing, is what made it that I could confidently say, okay, how can we book? Like, it doesn't even matter who's got money. Like, we're just going to do this trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And make it something that we now get to enjoy the memories and enjoy the pictures for the rest of our lives.
My gosh, I'm so happy that you guys got that experience. And what I just really want to point to the audience is when you hear about people having money, especially for a lot of us who didn't grow up with money, you might think about like, why would I even want money? Like, I don't want this expensive car. I don't want these things. Why would I even care about money, right? But what you hear from Dr. Latifat is that money allow her to create memories, to actually support, to pour into her community, into her family. So think about what that could mean, right? What the money could mean as the choices that you can do, the people that you can support. So with that, at every episode, we always ask the guests to share a charity that they are a champion of so that our listeners could support that charity on your behalf. You're pouring to us, share so much wisdom with our community, and we would love to thank you by supporting the charity that you're a champion of. Please share with us how we can support that.
Absolutely. One of the charities that we support is Feeding America. And we've been supporting them now for a couple of years. If you've ever been hungry before, it's not a good feeling. And if you have kids or you were hungry as a child, it's not a good feeling. And so the idea that I can tell people to invest in the stock market through their retirement accounts or outside of the retirement account, and they can do that passively, automatically, and all of that stuff, you can also give automatically like that. And to think that something that I'm doing without needing to make that decision every month could be putting food on someone's table is the least I can do as a human. So I love Feed America because of the work that they do around the country. And, they do a lot of work local to me as well. So if you want to support them or something similar to that, that would be highly, highly appreciated.
I love that. How can the audience get in touch with you and know more about what the work you're doing? Share with us.
Absolutely. The easiest way to stay connected is if you're listening to this on us right now, you can just scroll and find Money Fit MD. I speak with women physicians, but I will tell you that some of the messages that I get and all of that are from men and also from non-physicians. So there's no police that's going to stop you from listening to my podcast. I love that I get to share and anybody can literally feed on it. Also, my book, Done with Broke, it's available on Amazon. It's available on Audible. What you have in that book is what took me from negative 200K to my first seven figures without doing anything crazy, without doing anything fancy. So there's something good you can learn from everything and everybody. And thank you so much for inviting me on here to come share with your audience. And thank you for the great work that you do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Latifat. I will link her podcast and the book in the show notes so you guys can easily access it there. Thank you so much for spending the time with us, for sharing all the wisdom. To the audience, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you. Bye.